Natural You podcast. You know how we start every episode, start talking about what we're grateful for. I'm here with the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club Dane County, Michael Johnson. And what I'm most grateful for, honestly, and it seems like to be a repeating cycle here. I'm so grateful for my wife. Like I was out in Utah, I had surgery this past week, and my wife is taking care of a man that's pretty much a lame duck right now, limping around and trying to get through life. And she is like more patient than I've ever seen her, and taking care of me and doing a wonderful job. So I'm always grateful for my wife, always grateful for my family. So, but that's what I'm most grateful for today. How about you, sir?
Man, let me first say thanks for having me on the
No
show,
problem.
man. I
No problem.
appreciate it. I'll first say, just God giving me health, man, and allowing
Mm,
me to, get up every day. I watch so many nonprofit leaders, community leaders, business leaders who, you hear these stories about, people having heart attacks or
mm,
losing their kidneys or can't walk or losing their sight or being stressed out at work and just being mindful that we take care, of our own
mm.
temples. So I'm just thankful that God continue to give me good health. And then I would say I'm thankful for my family, man. I've been married now for 22
Ooh,
years
congrats, sir.
to the same woman. We got 3 kids, and she was the same woman who helped me get through college because I couldn't read and write. And I'm just thankful that sister um, stayed with me all these years, and now seeing my son in college, thriving in the music business, and making music and making money, and I'm just thankful, man, that God has blessed me abundantly. And I would say, finally, I'm thankful to be able to do the work that I do.
Mm,
I get to get up every single day and to advocate for young people and to raise money for young people and to work with different people of different walks of life.
mm.
And I'm just thankful that God allows me to be able to do that type
Oh man, we're starting it off with a bang. I like that.
of work.
22 years. Well, we'll come back to that. Let's piggyback off what you were saying, working with the youth. What what inspired you to first start working with the community?
Yeah. So I grew up what I believe is the toughest public housing developments in the country, right? Growing up in Chicago Housing Authority, and growing up in the village on Roosevelt and
Mm,
Racine, and living in the projects, all my life, and just seeing what was happening to young men and young women that I grew up with. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with my life, but I knew I didn't want to go to jail, and I was fortunate that I had a couple of mentors and some people that kind of kept me away for the most part
mhm,
from the streets. And what inspired me was I was a student at Malcolm X College, and they wouldn't allow me to take regular courses because they told me I couldn't read and write at the collegiate level, and so I had to take all these preparatory courses. And when I got through that program at Malcolm X, I felt like when I graduated, I felt like I could take on the world.
mm,
And I wanted to run. I didn't know what kind of nonprofit, but I knew I wanted to run a nonprofit to protect and to help and to support and to empower kids.
mm,
And that's what inspired me. So I've spent the last 20 years getting all the credentials I can get, whether it's from Harvard Business School, the Center of Philanthropy at Indiana University or Cornell University or Chicago State, you name it, University of Michigan. I I did not want to get an opportunity and not be prepared.
mm.
So I got every credential that I could think of as a black man to make sure that nobody could deny me or deny what I would perceive as providing greatness for kids. And I do this work every day because I want to see young people reach their full potential. I want to see them become doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, business leaders, plumbers, carpenters, electricians, principals, elected officials. We all have an obligation as adults to pour into our young people And that's what I try to do every day.
Oh man, love hearing that. That's amazing. Let's rewind.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let's rewind a little bit. Now, I'm familiar with w- where you grew up. Now, I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Maywood, Broadview area of Illinois and went to Proviso East High School.
Yeah, girl broke my heart from Maywood.
Uh,
So I'm
so
familiar with it.
yeah, so and the West Side was always a home to us. Like if we never journeyed to the South Side. That was we're not going to the South Side. We would stay on the West Side and go there. Let's rewind before college.
Yeah.
Growing up, what were some of the things that you had to worry about for people that don't understand that area?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that you had to worry about?
I always handled things with my fists. So, I used to hang out in K Town, and
Mm,
I lived I would say probably a very non-productive life during that time without getting into all of the details. And so I always worried about my safety and not showing it.
mm-hmm,
I always dreamed about like who would try to take me out, what my funeral would look like, who would, be at my funeral. Now being 49, I couldn't imagine living this long to be honest with you. So I always worried about, my safety, how I would survive,
mm-hmm,
in that environment. And and at the time I wanted to be a music producer. So, I was fortunate that I was able to start a record label. I was able to buy a restaurant, and I tried to do the right things, but
mm-hmm,
I just didn't have the business acumen. And then that's why I ultimately ended up getting all my degrees in business because I
mm-hmm,
failed so many times trying to do the right things. But I'm thankful that I come from the streets because the streets taught me a lot.
mm,
It taught me a lot about credibility, accountability. It taught me a lot about, being, I hate to say it, paranoid, but I would say paranoia, I think, kept me, has helped me throughout my career
mm-hmm,
because I historically just don't trust people.
mm-hmm,
And your trust has to be earned with me. But I've also learned, like, when you're in the type of business that I'm in, just like you're on the streets, people are going to attack you,
mm-hmm.
and it's how you respond to those attacks. And so I've learned how to play checkers instead of I mean, I'm sorry, chess instead of
Yep.
checkers. And but I've also learned to be humble, to be nimble, and to move in God's grace.
Mm, powerful words. And Tania, what up? I see people saying hi already, and she's talking about trust is hard.
Good morning.
So one of the questions, because I've watched other interviews that you've done, one of the questions that I was going to ask was, do you still have those lenses on? And you spoke about it, paranoia. Now, I tend to I don't call it paranoia because I still see the world
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much like that. Like,
yeah,
and I've seen interviews where you talked about there's only you and a few other guys from your elementary class that are still alive, and
yeah,
I know that feeling as well.
yeah.
And do you really believe it? I always tell people it's like I've I've been blessed to see the world, the reality of the world, the reality of the worst, the worst of the worst. I've seen that, but I've also been blessed to live in the world where it's sunshines and
No
rainbows,
doubt, no
and it's
doubt.
not that. So it's like I've seen both ends of the reality. So do you really look at it as paranoia, or do you just look at it more like, okay, I've seen some real horrible conditions in this world,
Yeah,
and I can see through the BS.
yeah. So I think when a couple of things. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say yeah. You got to be paranoid. So when you're a black leader leading anything, there any leader, people are going to attack you, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are going to attack you for what you represent, what you look like. But then if you garner any level of success, people who used to be close with you will attack you.
Mm-hmm.
And then people who are jealous of you will attack you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got people who will just go along for the ride
Mm-hmm.
because it's good for social media and they want
Mm-hmm.
the clicks and all that other stuff, right? Then sometimes people look at like if you're doing anything creative, this jealousy, mindset
Mhm.
that I see. So I think when you're in these types of roles that I'm in, you have to be cautious and you
Mhm.
have to be, and maybe paranoid ain't the right word, but I don't trust nobody,
Mm.
and except but my family and a very very small core of people,
Mhm.
and I think that has protected me. So you have to earn that trust. Now, what I will say, as a kid growing up, I watched my friends get killed because
Mhm.
they trusted people. I watched them go to jail because they trusted people. I watched them get stabbed or shot because they trusted people. So maybe I got a little bit of baggage, man.
Mm.
'Cause I've seen those things
Mhm.
um, with I had a friend see to that, right? And
Mhm.
so that history has carried on with me since until I'm almost 50 years old.
Mhm.
Also, a couple of weeks ago, somebody said, "Well, I saw you on CNN. Why did you say, you've been?" Somebody sent me this note last. They said, "I heard you say that you've been going to vigils since I was 15." And I'm in my 40s. I'm still going to those vigils today, right?
Mhm.
And watching young people being killed, or watching somebody who trusted somebody set them up or
Mhm.
manipulate them. So trust, in my opinion, it has to be earned. And sometimes people will look you in your face and say all these great things, and then behind your back just be slicing you a million times. So I've just learned, man, that to walk in faith, to be true to who I am,
Mm.
and let God utilize me.
I I always go to whenever trust gets talked about. I always go to um, DMX, great philosopher DMX. I don't care what anybody says. He is
He's in my playlist.
there we go. Like he is a great philosopher to me. He is DMX said, I trust everybody to be who they are. I don't if if you're this way, I trust you to be this way. If you say this, I trust it.
Yeah.
Like right off the jump. I'm not gonna deny it. I'm not gonna do anything else. I just trust you to be who you are. And um I think I think when we get to that level where we could just trust people to be who they are and not who we want them to be,
Right.
life moves simpler. And it starts with what you're talking about, trusting in yourself,
Yeah.
believe, putting faith in front of everything else, and then it allows you to make the best decisions possible. Now, growing up, seeing what you've seen, and if I'm correct, grew up single mom household.
Yep. Yeah.
How much would you say that geared you towards helping the next generations
Yeah.
in life?
It's everything, man. My mom was a I come from a single family household. My mom has schizophrenia. My mom was on SSI. My mom didn't really have the means to really provide in
Mhm.
abundance for us, right? But I knew my mom loved me. That I
Mhm.
knew for damn sure. And so my hustle, when I hustled on the streets, was about it was about a survival, right? But I knew my mom wanted what was best for me. And I think what ultimately drew me to this Boys and Girls Club work, when my mom died, I was 23 years old and I was a part time staff person at Boys and Girls Clubs. And my mom had died and she didn't have health insurance.
Mm.
And she had sat in the morgue for a few days, and we didn't know how we were going to bury her. And I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Um,
Take your time.
so I remember Boys and Girls Clubs stepping up. God, sorry,
No, 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 no. Don't be sorry.
sorry.
I can't tell you how many times I've shed tears on this podcast.
So I remember Boys and Girls Club stepping up and providing the money to bury my mother. And man, I just it just touched me, and we were able to to bury my mom, and so I just decided, like at that point, I was going to utilize my life. So like sometimes people be like, man, why y'all do all this stuff? Why do y'all take people grocery shopping? Why do you help people buy homes and give away cars? Because sometimes people just need a hand up. And Boys and Girls Clubs, thank you, bro. Boys and Girls Clubs provide that to my mom, for me and my family at the time. Man, that's the first time I ever cried on TV. I'm sorry, man.
Please
And
don't be sorry. Please don't be sorry.
yeah,
Man.
so they provided that little bit of relief. And so when you see us around here giving people cars and helping to furnish people houses or helping to pay people rent, yes, that's not traditionally what Boys and Girls Clubs do. But if you're truly going to impact kids' lives, you got to touch their families too. And so our Boys and Girls Clubs operate very differently than other Boys and Girls Clubs across the country. If you look at what we did over the holidays, we gave away almost $100,000, not of Boys and Girls Club money. I simply utilized my social media
Mm-hmm.
influence to encourage people. I need 1,000 for this person. I need 5,000 for this person. I need 1,000 for this person. And people step up if they know you're going to truly be helping
Mm-hmm.
people. So I've tried to demonstrate that. Somebody poured into me at a time where my family need help, and I know there's people out here who struggle every single day. And I try to utilize my role at Boys and Girls Clubs to be a helping hand to others.
Man, that's incredible. Now what, man? Okay, that that's incredible that they helped you out at a time when you needed them, at an age where our brain isn't even fully developed. So that must have left a like huge imprint on your brain. 23, our brain doesn't even fully develop until like 25, 27.
Yeah,
So you're coming into that time of your life from there, from we'll say 23,
yeah.
losing your mom, to becoming the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club. What happened? What were the steps that transpired for you to get to where you are right now?
Yeah, so at the time, man, when I was at Malcolm X, I just realized I had so many issues. I couldn't read and write at proficiency. I had a stuttering problem, so I couldn't get in front of
Mm,
people without stuttering. And so I knew, like, I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted to do something. So I'm just gonna go to school. So
mhm,
after I graduated from Malcolm X, I went to Chicago State, and I saw how well I was doing in school. And I was like, man, I'm actually not dumb. I'm man, I can go with the best of them, right? So I'm sitting in class debating other students,
mhm,
and I was like, okay. So then I got offered a job running all after school programs for Chicago. A name you're going to start hearing about in this community, a guy by the name Paul Vallis, who was the school superintendent, and he hired me to run all of the after school programs in Chicago. That gave me confidence.
mhm,
But then when I started trying to get promoted, it was like, oh, you don't have a master's degree, or you don't have this experience, and you don't have that. So Paul was like, go get all your degrees in business, and trust me, like if you do that the right way with your practical experience, you will be a beast.
mhm,
So I worked during the school day, took jobs all over the country from Philadelphia Public Schools to I went to go work for the mayor of Philadelphia, and I always went to school at nighttime, just trying to sharpen my iron. So um, I get a job as my first vice president role was with the YMCA in St. Louis, and I killed it there. I was fun. I didn't know how to fundraise before I got there. I was in a newspaper all the time, and my CEO was like in his late 60s. And he
mhm,
was at retirement age, but he just wasn't a progressive CEO.
mhm,
Like I just feel like he sat in the office all day. But good God, but he paid his dues.
mhm,
Man, I was ready to be a CEO. And I'm like, I'm gonna take any CEO job I can find. So I remember I get this offer to take over a residential treatment facility for kids in Indianapolis. And I take the job, and I realized very, very quickly it was a great organization, but as a CEO, I wasn't responsible. Like the prisons or the courts would send us kids,
Mm-hmm.
and they were I feel like at the time I feel like they were institutionalizing
Mm-hmm.
these babies. And I was like, no, these kids should be in boys and girls clubs and YMCA's, after school programs and mentoring programs, and the courts wouldn't allow me to do it. And I knew my soul wouldn't allow me to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of anything that would institutionalize kids. So that's when I said, okay, I gotta like go work at a Boys and Girls Clubs or a
Mm-hmm.
YMCA. And then that's when I went to the School of Philanthropy, and everybody was telling me, you gotta know how to fundraise. So I went and to the number one school of philanthropy, which is at Indiana University. So 10 years, 15 years ago, I take on this role at Boys and Girls Clubs. They was having payroll issues. And today we're one of the fastest growing Boys and Girls Clubs in the country. Today we have helped thousands of Black and brown kids graduate from high school. We just raised $31 million and built Boys and Girls Club's largest workforce center in in the 125-year history of Boys and Girls Clubs of America, teaching kids how to become plumbers, carpenters, electricians. And since I've been here, I've probably raised about $50 million for young people in this community, and I'm living what I believe God have asked me to do, and I'll continue to do that as long as He
Man,
will allow me.
that's powerful. That's that's how you change things. And Corey, could you scroll? Could you scroll up? I want you. When people jump in here, they always have something to say, and I want you to. I seen this one scroll through, and I want you to make sure you see that one.
Yeah.
Tania says, "Thank you for having the heart you do for children. Your mother lives on through your heart, sir." And so my daughter wanted to be a part of the Boys and Girls Club, but I didn't know what it was. Now he does. Um, it's beautiful when we finally see we are intelligent. I love that for you. So good help, good guy help our youth. Trades are being forgotten. Trades make money. So it's it's incredible what you've been able to accomplish in what I consider a short time. Now, you're going on 50, you said? 49.
49.
49.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, you still got a good at least 40 or 50 years left. So you've only
I
gotten
will.
started.
Yeah.
You've only gotten started, sir. Like it's gonna be incredible to watch what you continue to do because now you have all the knowledge and now you're just learning how to apply it better. So this is beautiful. So come from you come from a very tough environment, single mom household, inspired by Boys and Girls Club, do all the work that is needed. Now it's you mentioned something in between here. You wanted to ensure that you weren't going to be told no for any they wouldn't be able to come up with a reason to tell you no.
I
So
don't let
that's
nobody tell me no.
so you went to school to make sure of that, and now you're running the show and bringing in money, bringing in funds, building these facilities. What obviously working with our youth brings you joy, but what specifically are there any moments where you're like, oh, today was a great day?
Yeah.
All right, are there any what
Oh
moments stick
yeah.
out to
Oh
you now?
yeah.
Because this is
Oh
I
yeah.
like I do mentoring with
Yes.
the Grow program
Yeah. Yeah.
with the DOC. That
Yeah.
they come into my gym and I like, but I love what I do every day,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
love working with kids.
Yeah.
But and we got hip hop programs. I love what I do, but
Yeah.
there are moments that are just greater
Yes.
than any other. So what are those moments? What that you can recall?
So watching Denny Love, who
Mm,
is from Madison, who was a kid in our Boys and Girls Clubs, and watching him, move to LA and watching him on Netflix shows
mm,
and seeing all the good stuff that he's doing, watching him in the King of Kingston, the Mayor of Kingston,
mm-hmm,
watching him and then coming back to our Boys and Girls Clubs and speaking to our kids, watching little Julian Walters, they call him Juju, and watching like what he does in this community. He grew up, he went through our college preparatory program, and watching him now do, I believe, a $17 million development in this community is amazing. Watching a young lady who is a now a medical doctor at a hospital in Milwaukee and coming back and saying, "Oh my God, going through your Avid Tops program was the difference in my life." And then knowing that we have kids all over the country, black and brown kids who traditionally don't graduate from school, are coming back and saying, "I've graduated." I think about James. I don't want now want to tell his big, but we got kids who are now making six figures, right?
Hmm.
And they're at the peak of their careers, and like watching them as babies when I first got here, now being like responsible adults, it's powerful. And I can go on and on and on of these stories of young people who are thriving. I get tired of seeing young men going to jail. I was just in Cook County Jail with a guy named Willie Wilson in Chicago, and we were visiting some of the residents there, and just seeing, knowing that this country is the number one jailer in the world, and knowing that our county contribute to those statistics. Part of what I would say my ministry and our work is to divert young people from the criminal justice system and let them know that they can explore and be the
Mm.
best that they can be. But sometimes we have to have this like sometimes I get criticized about raising money and working with uh who cares, working with people that give to this community. But if somebody's pouring into our kids and giving them an opportunity to be exposed, I'm going to work with a variety of different groups.
Hmm.
I don't care where they come from. If somebody's going to invest in kids, I'm going to have a conversation with
Let's
them
go.
about it. Let's go.
That's, oh man, listen to all those great stories. What, how hard was it, or if it's still difficult, to balance work and family? This is the one thing that, as as an entrepreneur myself, as every business venture you take on
Yeah,
is like you're giving birth to a new baby.
yeah,
And it's like, well, now I got to pour everything into this and find a way to balance everything else.
yeah,
Has that been difficult, or does that continue to be difficult? The work life family balance.
yeah. So I think when I first started my career, um, it was a hard balance.
Mm.
I would not sacrifice anything for my family now. Any meeting, if my girls got an event, their event is my priority. If my wife have an event, their event is my priority. I would not be here if it was not for my wife. My wife is a chemist and smart. When I was at my bottom, when I was living in the projects, when I didn't have two penny to rub together, she was my tutor. She was the one who encouraged me to go back to school. She was the one who got me through my MBA courses. And now I'm in a position where I am the provider for my family. And I don't want to be one of those fathers where I'm giving back to my community and my kids don't know me and my wife don't know me. So I would tell your listeners that if you are in a position, nothing becomes before your family. Because if something happened to you, the community, people will forget about you. They'll, oh, he was a great, or she was a great person, or they were a great person. But your spouse is going to be the one that will be there. Your kids are going to be the one that's with you. And so I do not, under no circumstances, um, put my family on the back burner. And I remember when my son was born, he's now 20 years old. I remember I got the picture holding him like this. Now my son's 6'2", 200 pounds, 5% body weight, and now he can probably hold my big self up. And I never missed any of his football games,
Mm.
and because you only get that one shot.
Hmm.
Like once they're done with high school and all those activities, they're gonna remember
Hmm.
if you were there for them.
Mm.
And I would say like when my son was 3 and 4, I missed some of those things, right? Because I was out there, and
Hmm.
it's like I just will not. So don't sacrifice your family. Now sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but it can't be long term. If you gain the world and lose your family in the process, or lose your soul in the process,
Oh,
you are a failure, in my
oh,
opinion.
that's so powerful. And there's so many people that, and I think we all make that mistake. We we dive into our careers right away, and it's like, oh, we're doing this for our family. We're doing this for our family.
Yeah.
And a lot of times can lose our family and lose those moments, as you just stated, that we can't get back. So that was a powerful message. And thank you for that. Was there any, and first off, let me kudos to your wife, because I don't think it gets talked about enough. We definitely don't, you know what? We only hear it when people are super successful, how much their wife is stuck by them. And it's the whole reason they are successful
Yeah.
is their wife pushed them,
Yeah.
supported them, pushed them some more, supported them, and spoke life and love into us in a way that can help us do better in life. So kudos to your wife, because
Man.
she she wasn't there just in the good times. She was there when, as you
She
stated,
was
you
there
didn't
when I
have.
didn't have a car, and my wife come from a middle class community and had both her parents and they had cars, and my whole goal in life was to get her pregnant and to live in her mama basement, and she flipped the script on me, right? And I was like, man, this is a come up. She beautiful, they got money, they got a house.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, if I can get her pregnant, I'm in. And I remember telling her mother that, years later, I was like, she had a big basement, and I
Mm-hmm.
visualized us having kids, us taking over that
Mm-hmm.
basement. And it's like now, like it's like, man, my dreams were very limited
Yep.
and pathetic, to be honest with you. But my wife helped to shape that, and I always honor my wife all the time because we're a team and we built a great family together. And I always honor her and every chance I get.
Your wife, women have this ability to see something in us that a lot of times we don't see.
Yeah,
And it's just whether or not they they know how to bring it out of us, or
yeah,
whether or not we believe in them and we trust them. So that, again, kudos to your wife, because I wouldn't I wouldn't say your thoughts were necessarily pathetic. They were limited,
they were limited.
limited,
Yeah,
limited. When you said that, I definitely, you had a ceiling on those, and she was like, no, you could do way better in life, and we're gonna reach for this.
she actually
So,
wouldn't. It was funny when we started. She wouldn't marry until she ran my blood work. She did a
mm,
background check on me. She ran my credit score. At
mm.
that time, she's like, you can't even get a pack of Loungleaders on credit. Now my credit score over 800. Like,
Oh, let's go.
and now some of my friends think I'm foolish. I have had a paycheck since 2002. So my wife manages all of our finances, and but I can walk in anywhere and get anything I want. And financial literacy is important. I've learned how to invest.
Hmm.
I've learned how to purchase real estate. I've learned how to, make your resources work for you. But I've also learned to live below my means,
Hmm.
right? And my wife, I would say, was a teacher, of that space because her family, came from a better situation than my family came in, and so I've learned from her because of what her family taught her.
Man, again, kudos to your wife. Your wife and my wife sound very similar. My wife handles all the money too, so I'm not gonna clown you for that. That seems like the best. That seems like the best investment I've ever made. So, like, it sounds like you right along with me, sir. So, um, that's amazing. Well, could you scroll up, Corey? I seen one question that was a good question that I want to. Yeah. So the Victor has a question. How has your character and your work in life benefited your kids? And he says he has a son and daughter, 4 and 8.
Like my personal kids or boys growth
Your
kids.
personal kids.
Oh my God! So like, man, my son go by the name of MKE, and he's in business school at the University of Cincinnati. And I've watched him, like, he's living his dream, right? He's out there doing concerts, he's putting out good music, but he still is a AB student, right?
Mm,
And so like watching him, like he didn't like I remember watching this documentary of Ice Cube and his son, right? So while like Ice Cube came from similar circumstances as I did,
mm-hmm,
our two sons did not.
mm-hmm,
And so my son is living his truth through his experience, through his music, and I love that he's traveling all over the country. Like he was in a studio in Miami where Kanye West does his music, and
Mm.
watching him, do music there. I went to Atlanta with him and watched him film a video with, I don't know, some of these artists now, the Concrete Boys, the young Concrete Boys who are young millionaires, and
Mm-hmm.
watching my son do a music video with them and them asking him to like to be a part, of this. So I'm watching him follow his dreams, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, go to business school in Cincinnati
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that he has his business acumen straight. I've also watched his character, right? And him share things with me because I was concerned, like, I saw you in Miami, then I saw you in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in school? And so now my wife knows because they have a portal, she get to watch and make sure he on
Mm-hmm.
track. And my son looks at me and he said, Dad, it's all about time management. You did? That's what he says to me. He said, you manage your time the right way. I go to class Tuesday and Thursdays. Concerts and shows are usually on Thursday, on Fridays and Saturdays, and
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend. I catch my flight. Sometimes I study on the plane, and boom, I'm back in class on Tuesday. So I'm like, damn. Like, and then my son is really serious about his health, right? So like, he works out every day. He's cut up, and like he's taking care of his temple,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm proud of him. And then my daughters, man, over the years they've been to so many fundraising dinners for me.
Mm-hmm.
My one daughter, my oldest daughter is 13, and my youngest is 8. And I look at them, I'd be like, who's these little sisters? Like their legs crossed, and I'll be at dinner meetings, and they're talking more than me. So
Mm.
they're comfortable in
Mm-hmm.
different settings. And then throughout their lives, my kids have been around very wealthy people, mid class people, and low income
Mm-hmm.
people. So they know how to navigate through those different circles. And so I'm watching them develop. My daughter was catching balls for Serena Williams at the Cincinnati opener and a couple of other events. So she's getting that exposure because she plays tennis
Mm-hmm.
and they play sports. And so I'm thankful to see that my kids, my own kids, are not sacrificed at the expense of the work that I do for Boys and Girls Clubs.
You know, Corey and I are both fathers, and it's obvious that you love being a dad and that you cherish that because you light up when you talk about the Boys and Girls Club. You shine when you were talking about your kids. That's a whole different look, like a proud father moment. That's absolutely incredible. And again, kudos to you, sir, because when it comes to people of color, right? There's always a stigma when it comes to us men, especially.
It's real talk.
And like I said, my father was a Rolling Stone. Like literally, Papa was a Rolling Stone. That song was about my dad.
Mine
Like,
had 22 kids.
oh, okay. So your dad was doing. He was more of a Rolling Stone than my dad. My dad just had me and my older brother from two different moms within a week. So
Yeah.
like that. Like Pops was out there, but um, but to hear you talk about being a father first and talking about your kids and the positions that you put them
Yeah.
in and seeing how you speak about them, kudos to you, sir.
Thank you, man.
Because working with the youth, it is very clear. The moment I meet a young man, I know instantly whether his father is in his life or not.
Yeah, yeah,
Doesn't matter if they're together.
yeah.
I know whether or not his father is in his
And you
life.
could tell, like, when you first meet them, they look you in your face,
Yep.
they shake your
Yes,
hand.
sir.
And
Yes.
so many of our young people, for whatever reason, not comfortable in their skin,
Mhm.
and we gotta teach them like their inner strength. And it
Yes, sir.
like it used to frustrate me, but I could just tell, like when a man is not in a young boy's life, you could just see their confidence is not where
Mhm.
it should be.
Mhm.
And I always tell young people, be proud of the name that you represent. When you look me, when I shake your hand, look me in my face, look me in my eyes, don't look down. And I actually hold that against people. Like if I'm at a table with somebody and you looking down and you ain't paying attention,
Mhm.
that tells me something.
Yep.
And I hate to say this, sometimes I'm not as trusting uh, with people who don't show confidence, right? And when you're in a leadership role, even if you have to fake it, You
Yeah,
show it, right? And there's a lot of times I've had to fake it until I
you
actually
got it. Yeah.
got what I needed.
Oh man, that's it's funny. My son is 14, and over the past 2 years, we've been having these conversations. Like, why are you looking down? Why look me in my
Right,
face?
right.
Because when you're out in this world, this is how you got to order.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my son is a lot like how you just described your son. My son is 14, 6'1", and 240 pounds.
Mm.
And I'm pretty, by the time, and he's only a freshman, by the time he's done with high school, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to just take me and throw me on his shoulder. Let's go, dad.
Yeah.
And so, um, where, where do you see yourself in the next, we'll say 5 years?
Yeah.
Where do you see your organization? Where do you see yourself personally?
Yeah. So I would say this will probably be my last job, right? And
Mhm.
so I don't see me working for another board or doing anything else. What I've learned is to manage the resources I have. If I ever was to lead Boys and Girls Clubs, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and really work on building wealth so I could become a philanthropist.
Mhm.
Then I would say, secondly, my expectation is I would love to stay in this job another probably 15 years. And so, at about 65, I think at that point I would probably want to give it up. But I could see us serving more young people, helping more young people graduate from high school. Right now, we have a proposal on the table to work with the McKinsey Foundation to build the first workforce high school in the history of the city. We're teaching kids, how to become plumbers and carpenters and developers. And there's some people that support, and there's some people who don't support. But Madison has not built a school since 1952, and I believe that was Memorial High School.
Mm.
So our proposal tonight for the school board is to do it in partnership with them, to do it as an instrumentality school, to do it where we would hire unionized teachers, but it can't be a school that's the way we run schools right
Yeah.
now because we have kids who are graduating without a pathway to something,
Mhm.
and right now we're helping a lot of our kids, but we're also failing a lot of kids, and so people when you introduce things, people take shots at you,
Mhm.
and so I'm getting my fair share of criticism for whatever reason, but I also get my fair share of I think I've won every award you can think of in this city, from Business Executive of the Year to the MLK Humanitarian. And I can go on and on and
Mhm.
on. But I'm not somebody that likes the status quo. So I can see us building a few more Boys and Girls Clubs and a few more preschool programs. I can see us raising a couple 100 million for kids in this community, and really listening to what the needs are for young people in this community and responding to it in a productive way. There's some people who voice like different levels of leadership is always needed, right? And there's some people who has to sit in a room to help get a deal done. There's some people who will has to agitate the power brokers in this community. Point, in fact, the Vale Phillips statue. When those young activists were downtown, there was some people criticizing me then, right? Because we raised the money to help build those businesses back up and to get their windows back in, and people criticized me for that. But I also marched with those activists that was out there, and they told me, Mr. Johnson, there's no representation of people of color. What are you gonna do about that? I'm like, I'm not the governor. Like, what do you mean?
Mhm.
What I'm gonna do about that?
Mhm.
And so then I had to sit back and say, okay, what can I do about it? And 4 years later, we have the first statue of a black woman anywhere in the United States, the first singular statue of a black woman in a state capital right here in our state capital. And it was our young activists who brought those issues to my concern, and now lives Vale Phillips. Vale Phillips was the first black woman in the United States to be elected to a statewide office. The first woman in this country to be named to a national political committee. And so when the opportunity came up, I had a conversation with the governor, I had a conversation with the legislative leadership team, and then eventually we raised almost three-fourths of $1 million to have a statue built of her. And those are the type of legacies that I want to create. It's not about us. Like once you become a leader, a CEO, a manager, It is about how you utilize your influence in your life to impact other people
Mhm.
and not your own life, in my opinion.
Man, that's powerful. So more Boys and Girls Club, a school. These are these are big goals. These are big visions that you are talking about here. The school, it's that sounds powerful because for so long we preach university, 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 which is great.
Yeah, yeah.
And but now there's a gap with trades, and it's like, yeah, I love that. I love that you are working on building that, and then not even having the status quo of teachers, having actually union folks in there teaching this is this this sounds amazing. What you said that meeting's tonight?
Yes, tonight at 6 o'clock.
So I'm guessing this is, or I'm assuming this is the first step. So no matter what decision gets made, there's going to be more steps and more things
Yeah,
that go on.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this school is gonna it's gonna happen. The question becomes, does it happen with MMSD or does it happen without MMSD?
Mm,
Our presence is to do it with MMSD. Like so, you look at one city, they're a non-instrumentality school that's needed in this community, but we decided we wanted to take a different route, right?
mhm,
It's like let's try it with MMSD, and we're actually, I believe, still to this day, the largest um, investor in our public school
mhm,
kids, and so we try. So I sit on the FCCA board
mhm,
because I wanted to make sure that one, that they had a diverse board that represented the community. And the McKenzies, who have funded millions into this community, are really good friends of mine now. And I said, look, I feel like they've taken some of the guidance and counsel that I've given them, but they are responding to a critical issue that the business leaders in this community, including parents and MMSD teachers, have told us exist. And now they're responding to it. And so I've gotten used to, like, when you're in these roads, you got to have thick alligator skin
mm,
because people are going to attack you from every angle. And I've just gotten used to it.
mhm,
And so I just try to center myself and just say, look, I'm going to keep the focus on the kids. And when you do that, ultimately, with some adjustments, you ultimately get what
mhm.
you want if your mission and your vision it's righteous, and I believe this is a righteous cause.
Man, I'm excited to hear about this. I'm excited to see where this goes. So hopefully MS MSD or MMSD um, jumps on board. But I love what you said. I don't just like it. I love what you said about it's getting done. That is a that is a winning mentality right there.
It
Like
is like
that's
so. Like if they don't vote, they have other options and other
mhm,
mechanisms to get it done, right? And you know, at the end of the day, we can't give up on our kids. We have to explore every possible opportunity, for them. And then sometimes what people do in this community, they just throw out bombs, right? If you work with white people, you're a torchbearer of white supremacy. Or if you do this, it's just like all these bombs that people just throw out there,
mhm,
and just like judge our proposal on the content and the merit of the proposal, and
mhm,
let's debate it, right? Without trying to just scrutinize and then tear people down. And that happens a lot in this community.
mhm,
And sometimes they run people off. I ain't running no damn where. So, like, I've told people in this community, you attack me, I'm not afraid to go nowhere. I'll come on any program, any show, debate, or talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place,
let's
right?
go.
And and but what I won't do is allow people to disrespect me.
Mm,
And sometimes I see it on social media. So people are like, why do you block people? I block people to protect my peace. So if you're on there, there was one community leader saying I was under investigation from the FBI and I was poisoning kids and all this nonsense. It's like, I don't want that mess in my circle, right?
mhm,
So if you want to debate or discuss the issues, let's talk about it.
mhm.
And let's debate it. And if I'm wrong, I'll be like, look, we ain't right on this one. But I feel very, very strong that we're trying to do the right thing.
Man, that's um I'm late. Could you repeat the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. That's the organization. So this podcast is called You Control You. This is somehow, some way, nobody took this name. It's like, don't ask me how. This is something that all of us have heard. You're in control of you and all this stuff. And this is what's helped me propel forward in my life. The more I've taken ownership of my life, the more I decided to drive my car and not fall into the traps of other people's emotions, other people's words, fall into their traps when I removed things and brought about peace and just kept focusing on me and take control of my life. I've been able to help others so much more. And throughout your message, I've heard multiple times where it's shown that you control you. You have taken ownership of your life. You didn't play a victim to it. You didn't just fall down. You did fall down. I never consider failing. I just, you fell down, you got up. You only fail when you quit. That's how I look at it. And you didn't quit and you kept going. Now, usually there's a moment in all of our lives. I know mine came from standing in the mirror. I got in a fight right outside my high school and got sliced up with a knife. And I just left the hospital, had 27 staples in my back. My wrist was sewed back on. And I'm just looking at the mirror like, what are you doing? Like, was this worth it? Like, you've been shot at. You've been sliced up. How many fights? How many more? How much more do you need to show you that you're out of control? So for me, that was my moment. Do you have a moment or multiple moments where you're like, I need to take control of my life? I need to do this now, so that I can live my life the way I need to.
How much time we got?
You got as much as you want, sir.
All right. So, man, I'm gonna say it started. I was 19 years old and I became a millionaire. Literally. So I was a wrestler at a university, and it was well documented, made national news. The coaches, coach, and some of the I think I still own the fastest NCAA pen in the history of NCAA. And I had
whoa. Didn't it. Say that one more time, because I was a wrestler. Say that one more time.
I was a wrestler. I think I still hold the fastest pen in NCAA history.
Oh, wait, get him.
And so I wrestled a guy, and right before Thanksgiving, and pinned him in like 4 seconds. It was really fast. And the coaches had dressed up in Ku Klux Klan outfits on Thanksgiving Day, and some of the players pretended they were going to lynch me. And if you can Google the story, you'll see it was in the Cap Times. And I didn't talk about it for 20 years because during that time, I just wanted to be a student. So I got a whopping $1 million and came home. And I don't know if you remember the movie New Jack City.
Of course.
But I wanted to be Nino Brown. So I went and bought me a drop top Suzuki. I went and got me a Kango hat. I went and got me a gold chain. And I rode around my neighborhood for 21 straight days, all day long. And my boys were sitting in the back of that truck. So I then started a record label. Then I bought a restaurant and gave away $250,000 on the first day. So I had family from Mississippi, North Dakota, Tennessee, people I had never seen. Gave away $250,000 on the first day. So long story short, I was broke 6 months later. And I think what hit me, my mother was always a person of faith. So my street name was Boobaloo. They called me Boobaloo. And so I bought a restaurant. I named it Boobaloo's Barbecue. And so I had hired a bunch of family members and friends. And I probably spent no more than 20 hours in Boobaloo's Barbecue. I was like, y'all run it. But it was losing like $10,000 a month. So I got rid of everybody, closed down, got rid of all my insurance. And I probably had about $8,000 left in my bank account. And I remember going back to the restaurant. I was like, I got to now go there and do this thing myself because I now have nothing. And I remember I had these steel doors. My restaurant was on Karloff. It was in K-Town on Karloff and Keeler, right across the street from the McDonald's. And then I had these steel doors. Somebody went through the back of the door and ripped they ripped it up like a can. And I remember walking in there and they took everything except but this big white picture of Jesus. So they stole everything but Jesus. And my mother at the time, it was as big as this Biggie photo that you have here. If anybody see it, it was just like about the size of that photo. It was a big picture of white Jesus, and everything was gone. It was like some in a movie. Papers were blowing everywhere, and I was like, I just blew through $1 million, and I started crying, and I laid there, and it was the first time I ever thought about committing suicide. And I remember laying on the floor, like, how did I blow through all this money? People, I'm an embarrassment to my family. I can't, I just can't believe it. So it was a knife that was on the floor, and I remember sitting there, and I didn't have the courage. I was kind of like, and I remember looking at white Jesus, and there's people who probably ain't super spiritual, but in that moment, I felt like God was talking to me and said, "Son, I got something better for your life. The page will turn. The page will turn." And I sat there for 3 hours in my restaurant, and I walked up out of there and got my car, and my damn car broke down. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is terrible." And I remember my homies, my same homies who I would take to the club and spend $1,000 on food and liquor. Watch me at the bus stop. I'm now a student at Malcolm X. It was snowing outside, and I was at the bus stop, and they would not give me a ride to school. And I couldn't even afford a coat. So my sister bought me a coat, and it was at that moment I was like, nobody's gonna take care of me but me, and I gotta figure this shit. I'm sorry for cursing.
No, you good.
I said I gotta figure this shit out. And I remember this quote from Malcolm X: that education is a lifelong experience. So I decided at that moment I was going to do everything that I can to educate myself. I stopped hanging in the streets. I got involved in student government. I started volunteering at Boys and Girls Clubs. And my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, started taking me to weddings. I had never been to a wedding before. And I started seeing all these beautiful people getting married. She started exposing me to like plays. I had never been to a play before. So she started taking me to like these Tyler Perry plays. I was like, what is this shit? Excuse my language. And I was like, then over time, I was like, this is cool. And then she just started exposing me to so much. And fast forward today, I'm just thankful for those challenges because now I respect money. Now I know how to balance budgets and to do budget forecasting. Now I know how to manage millions. Now every dollar I personally earn, I try to invest at least 30 cents of it to make
Mm.
sure that I'm thinking about my kids. And a lot of times we don't do that. So I'm just so thankful. One, of having the opportunity to have those kinds of resources, but I'm also thankful I blew it because it was in those moments that made me a stronger person.
We learn beautiful lessons in our mistakes. Man, that's so powerful. You almost, man, I almost shed tears because, man, anytime you go through struggles and anytime you go through difficult aspects of life, it's so crazy to me because when you boil it all down, we all go through the same thing. We all go through the same emotions,
Yeah.
the same mentalities, the same feelings, the same everything. The experiences just are different,
Yeah.
but everything is the same. And we all have those moments where we've thought about it. I won't say all. When we strive for greatness, when we strive to do good for others, we have those moments where it's like we're broken.
Yeah.
And is this it? And when we can overcome those and come back stronger, we're able to give so much more to others. So thank you for not doing that because Dane County has benefited from you, from you being here. And whenever you talk about the the naysayers, I, I man, I work hard to stay off social media if it's not work related. I've been in Madison since about 2009.
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen things said on social media, and what I find funny, and I'll relate this back to Tech Nine
yeah, yeah.
because Tech Nine is the big homie, and every interview we've done, it's funny because no radio station was playing this song, right?
Yeah.
And it finally got to a point where every radio station is playing this song, and now every radio station wants to interview this man. But I remember this man being a millionaire, making millions, touring, and nobody wanted to mess with him because he wasn't pop music.
Yeah,
And it's sort of what I've seen is people that were talking and not agreeing with the way you were doing things.
yeah,
All of a sudden, they understand the other side of it because they've started organizations and they
right.
understand it takes you can't just be militant and just be I'm gonna do this all by myself. And now all of a sudden they're working with you a little bit more. I find it funny
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time when I
yeah,
see that. And it's again kudos to you because you stay the course. You understand your vision, you understand where you're trying to go. If you want to be a part of it, be a part of it. If you
yeah.
don't, then don't. And kudos to you that you were able to just say, you know what, let bygones be bygones.
Mhm,
Because I see you working with a lot of these people now.
mhm,
Cool, come on board. You didn't
yeah,
understand it then.
yeah,
You understand it now.
yeah,
Let's work together. Let's do what we have to make things better.
yeah.
So kudos to you. And I hope y'all understand how powerful his message has been today because from from the struggles of your youth to the struggles and mistakes that you made as a young adult all the way to now, you just kept moving forward, you kept grinding, kept making it happen. And Corey, can you scroll back up? I seen one question that I know is going to be a dope question. Okay, here we go. Victor says, what are some things you did or taught your son in order to be a strong, intelligent man?
Um, don't compromise his soul for anybody. Um, you know, like sharpen his skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like my son come from a good environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Be truth, be true to who you are, right? So but also recognize if you hear themes like if mom or dad or aunts or people you love are telling you how to be better, take that feedback
Mm.
and work on it, right? So like I didn't know my son was a hip hop artist because for some I'm like, God, I owned a record label. I was in hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
He was afraid to tell me, and because of some of the stuff he had in his music, like you don't think I cursed in my music? Like, son, do your thing. I'm not going to censor you.
Mm-hmm.
Do your thing. But all I ask is that you got a family to represent, right?
Mm.
And don't try to be like somebody else. Don't
Mm-hmm.
be something you ain't. Because people who act, eventually you can't maintain an act 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
It wears off. So I've learned to be me, right? And now being me, sometimes I work to get better, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like my Achilles heel, I'm gonna tell people how I feel. I do it all the time, right? So I have to get stuff off my chest. So and that's why I think there's some people in this community that love my work and some who don't. Because I've also, as I've gotten older, I don't take no bullshit from nobody.
Mm.
Nobody. I don't care if you're a donor. I don't care if you're a community leader. I don't give a damn who you are. I'm not taking bullshit from you.
Mm.
And now we can have strong conversations, but I've gotten too old to let somebody run over me.
Mm.
So I've asked my son that as he matured through life, be respectful, but don't allow anybody to run over you. Look people straight in their eyes. And if you say something, one person be brave enough to say it behind their back and be brave enough to say
Mm.
it in front of their face. And when I believe when you do that, people or within your own soul, you'll be like, look, I'm fair. and I'm honest, and I believe people who are honest sometimes get hurt, but
Mhm.
in the long run, I think they thrive. And when life look upon them, they'll be blessed in the process because I try not to tear people. You'll never see me tearing down another black leader
Mm.
in this community or any leader. You might see me respond if somebody's attacking me, but I never tear people down to rise up. You lift people up to rise up. And when you lift people
Man.
up, the entire tide rises because you're being uplifted. And that's why I believe at Boys and Girls Clubs. That's why I believe I've been successful because I don't tear people down.
Let's go. If you go do better than someone, you want them to you want to strive higher than them at their greatest.
Exactly.
Yeah, that ooh, I feel that one. That's how we that's how I coach fighters. It's literally how I coach fighters. The same message you just talked about.
Yeah.
With that, my last question, because I'm still a little confused. I got tagged in a social media post
Yeah.
by Karen Reese. Shout out Karen.
Uh-huh.
You were about to take part in some boxing event, but then a couple posts later, because I'm like, oh wait, I want to be involved. Like let me in. Like this, like how can we do this? What are we doing? What are we raising money for? Like this is cool. Like
Yeah.
out of all the things to raise money for, this is at least one thing that I know for sure I fit in. Like
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But then it's like, wait, this was a test, or this was what? What was this? Because I'm still baffled by it.
Yeah,
What was
yeah,
this about?
yeah. So it's all about the school that we're trying to build, and there was another nonprofit leader who I would say is probably very young into his journey, and for whatever reason, he goes on social media and every
Mm-hmm.
chance to try to attack me for whatever reason, right? And so time would tell. So there was another community leader who said, look, how about now? I never was beefing with him. What I did was they accused me of some things, and I put the facts out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not beefing with nobody. That's not my style.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody was like, well, why don't we do this like charity, boxing match?
Mm.
And I'm a competitor by nature, right? So at first I was like, at first I was for it, but then as I started talking to people, I have no doubt in my mind if I got in the ring with him, uh, I know me and I
Oh,
know
you
my
got a side,
training
yeah,
capability,
and you got a size
uh,
advantage on him.
and
Like,
a strong size of it, and I don't work out as much. I still can bench 350. Um, it would be a mistake, and then
mm,
so what would happen if I got in the ring and I hurt him? People would say, you beat up this poor little boy,
mm-hmm,
right? Um, and I don't lose at anything in life, and I
mm,
don't believe I would lose.
mm,
I don't think they were serious, right? And so I just decided, look, and then I counted. I said, look, if you want to box, you know, put your money where your mouth is, right? And so I was like, winner take all. You're not gonna leverage my brand in Boys and Girls Club and
mm-hmm.
say, well, we'll split the proceeds. I'm probably gonna end up raising the most money. So I'm gonna set the terms. So if you want to box and if you truly want to box for charity, winner take all. And they didn't want to budge on that. And then I was like, well, I'm out. And so
Oh man, see, so okay. I honestly, when I first seen this and I got tagged, I thought it was just like everybody. It was all love. I was like, oh, so they're about to do this thing for. Oh, see, I didn't realize there was a deeper. Now it makes sense. Now
yeah,
everything makes sense because I was just throwing my name in the hat. I'm like, who needs a coach? Oh wait, do you need someone to jump in and fight? I don't know. Like it's been a minute since I've competed, but I can get there. And like, so I was, man, anything for charity. I would. This
and
sounds
I'm usually
exciting.
for people know in this community. I've slept on roofs to raise money for kids. I've swam off 4 lakes in this city,
Mm,
and so I know when I train and bike, I'll drop weight fast and I'll get really really strong. And then so at first, yeah, I was thinking about it, and then I was just like, sometimes people are looking for clickbait,
yep.
and I've noticed that in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I think the young nonprofit leader who would have been my competitor, I think he does good work in the community, but I still think he has a lot of growing to do.
Yeah.
And if I was to ever decide to do it, it would have to be somebody in this community with the same sort of stature, and that's serious about raising money for kids. And I don't want to raise chicken dinner money
Yeah,
for our kids. We're beyond that. I want to raise transformational, life changing resources for our kids. And if that opportunity was to present itself, I would consider
man. Well, if you ever need a coach or an opponent,
it.
let me know, because if it's for charity, like if it's for charity, no doubt I have no problem being involved. And I mean, I know what I think Alton was gonna work with you
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Alton's the man. So I just seen him Saturday. That's my guy. So
Now I've heard great
yeah,
things about you. I love Alton, but I've heard your stories and heard about you, over the years. So when you reached out and said, "Man, I would train you," I was honored to get
oh man, like
that
anything,
message from
like
you.
anything. And so I get my last two questions. The first one: how can people? What are some tips that you can give people to help with when it comes to fundraising? If
Yeah.
they want to do fundraising, if they want to try to raise money for either their charities or their nonprofits or someone else's, what are some tips?
So I was right. So let's UW or the school learn the like some people think that raising this transaction is really about relationships. Right? So I've learned you have to have relationships with people. Transformational gifts. If you run a profit, you can't do it by yourself. You got to build a strong team around you. Let's volunteers. You're fortunate they have anybody, and you got a part-time staff person now almost employees. So we built our business serving young people in this community at a level where I have over 100 volunteers and committee members to help us do this work. And so I would say helping to build that team. Three, being true to your mission. And when you tell people you're going to do it, you got to do it. Four, you got to be able to tell your story. Somebody once referred to me on social media as a media whore. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. So I'm not afraid to tell the story of Boys and Girls Clubs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid to tell the story of the people that we help. Now, to some people in the public, one of my critics was like, well, you're exploiting people when you tell these stories. We don't put anybody's story out there unless they give us
Mm-hmm.
permission to do it. You only see a small fraction of the people that we help. You don't see the other thousands of people that we help because we know some people don't want their stories told. But if you don't tell your story, who's going to give to you? So, like over the holidays, people say, well, how do you raise all that money to do that? It's storytelling. You
Mm-hmm.
have to tell stories, and people need to see in real time. If I just gave him $1,000, oh my God, I gave him $1,000 an hour ago, and now I see he's paying somebody's rent. Somebody who was a
Mm-hmm.
veteran who fought for this country and did this. It's the story behind
Mm-hmm.
that that make people compelled to want to give. And then the last thing I would say, people got to believe in you. And at the end of the day, you have to live your life. You can't live one way during the day and then on night you live in another way. This community talks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your character, your reputation is everything. And so who you see now is who you see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't flip the script for nobody. Now, somebody used to say, "Well, do you code switch?" I don't no more. Now, early in my career, people like you had to talk a certain way, you had to walk a certain way. Like, no, hell no. I walk the way I walk. And if you like me,
Mm-hmm.
you like me. If you don't, you don't. If you like what we're doing, you support it. If you don't, you support somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot at this point in my career put on an act for nobody. And so that would be my advice. Be your authentic self, market and uh, tell your story, build a strong team around you. Even if you don't have a paid team, find a volunteer team, sharpen your skills by getting as many credentials as you can in fundraising so you at least understand the philosophy of fundraising. And then the last thing I would just say is a case study, right? You can't just go to somebody and say, "Oh, can you give me $100,000 because it's just because it's me?" No, understand what the issues are in the community,
Mm-hmm.
how the data to back up why somebody should donate to you. But then you also got to have a plan and say, this is how I plan to help eradicate this issue
Ooh,
or help to resolve some of these issues in our community. And we have to learn how to do that.
man, that's huge. What was the school that you went to for to learn how to be better at fundraising?
Yeah, so I think it's now called the Eli Lilly School of Philanthropy. But when I went there, it was the Center of Philanthropy at Indiana University
Okay.
in Indianapolis. But I also had to go to Cornell University and get all these. I didn't have to go, I wanted to go because when you manage nonprofits and you raise money, you got to manage human capital,
Mm,
meaning people or volunteers. And so I wanted to get every certification that I could
mm,
in HR management because I wanted to understand the different HR policies and laws and how to make sure that, when you promote people or sometimes if you have to sever ties with people, how to do that the right way, right?
mhm,
So I went and did that. And I went to the University of Michigan and, got some certifications there on project management. So I'm always going to be a lifelong learner because I want to continue to grow. And
mhm,
just because you get the title of CEO, no different than anybody else.
mhm.
All my colleagues at Boys and Girls Clubs, we all work for Boys and Girls Clubs. We may have different roles, but we all put on our clothes together. We all bleed the same role. And they're not my staff, they're my colleagues.
Man, that's
And we
powerful.
all work together. And my role is to help make them better leaders and to be a servant leader to them so they can become CEOs and vice presidents and directors and to reach out their career aspirations. And I'm thankful, like a lot of people who have worked with me have now gone to become presidents of
Mhm.
different organizations, and that's what it's all about.
Man, that's so powerful right there. My man, my last question is where can everybody find you? Where if they want to work with you, if they want to help out in any way, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm easy to find, so I've taken Facebook off my Facebook page. But I'm still active on Facebook. So if you just Google Michael Johnson, Boys and Girls Clubs, you'll see a million posts from me. I'm on Instagram under, I think it's M Johnson CEO. You can find me there. So I just think if you just do a Google search or you just go to the Boys and Girls Club website at www.bgcdc.org. My email address is on there. My cell phone is on there. And if you want to reach out, holler at me.
Man, let's go. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for being here. And thank you for all the work you've done. Man, here it is. You control you. We out, baby.
No doubt,
Peace.
no doubt. Thank you, bro.
Man, thank
It's a
you.
good interview,
Ooh,
bro. I never
man.
had somebody bring out tears in me. I'm like,
Well,
damn.
I don't know what it is with me. I seem to do it to everybody. I, it, it's, I just like talking. Like I said it before, I just